So I'm gonna just ask my coworkers to introduce themselves, starting with Brian and then Amy and then Elizabeth and then Kelly.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. I'm Brian Stetton. I'm the Policy Director at the Treatment Advocacy Center.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Lutz. I'm a social worker by training and part of the implementation team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Hank. I am the Director of Research at the Treatment Advocacy Center.
And I'm Kelly South, and I'm a research assistant in our research department.
Thanks, guys. So I'm just going to go across my screen, just starting going from left to right. I know we all see different things, but Mac, you're top left on my screen, so I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I should be unmuted now. Thank you. I'm Matt Coleman from Oakland County, Michigan. We are the county immediately north and west of Wayne County, which is where Detroit is.
Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Braun. I'm the program manager for the AOT program in Bernalillo County. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Our program is just starting its third year. I, however, am in my 6th month with the program. So nice to meet everybody.
Welcome. Steve?
Yeah, my name is Steve. I'm working with the SIU School of Medicine. So our program is brand new. We're hoping to get up and running by December 1st.
Just tell everyone where that is, Steve.
Springfield, Illinois.
Yep.
Thanks. And Dan?
Dan Prashner. I'm a probate judge in Travis County. We just cranked up with a big SAMHSA grant, and we're really kind of in our infancy, which is the reason I'm attending all of these meetings.
Judge, we're so glad you could join us. Brittany?
Hi, my name is Brittany with Court Services. We're with in El Paso, Texas, and we're pretty new also, it's just starting maybe a few months in.
Allison?
Hello, my name is Allison Booth. I am with the Smith County AOT program. Smith County is in East Texas. So we're in a rural area. We are in the 3rd year of our grant, and I am the AOT coordinator.
Beth?
Hi, I am Beth Gambone. I'm the AOT supervisor in Lee County in Fort Myers, Florida. We are just getting started as well, hoping to be up and running officially for December 1st.
Great, thanks, Beth. Melody?
Hi, I'm Melody Joyner from Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. I am the AOT project director, and we recently received our SAMHSA grant a few months ago, so we're looking to start December of this year.
Thanks, Melly. Joe?
My name is Joe Kaiser. I'm the AOT monitor for Hancock County here in Ohio, and I think we've been running up for almost 4 years now.
Thanks, Joe. Whitney?
Hi, I'm Whitney Harrington. I'm the AOT project director for Parker and Johnson County in Texas. And we just started. We're hoping to get in people by December 1st.
And Leticia?
Hello, my name is Leticia Martinez. I am the AOT court case manager for Bernalillo County in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Ariel?
My name is Ariel. I'm the AOT monitor in Lorain County. I work for the Mars board. I think we are going into our 3rd year, but I'm about 1.5 years into the monitor position at the board. So yeah.
Thank you. And Nick?
I'm Nick Strauntz. I work in Butler County, Ohio, which is the county north of Cincinnati. We've had a program for about 20 years, and I've served as the AOT monitor here for the past 13 years.
Great. John?
Hi everyone, my name is John Crouch. I work for Behavioral Health System Baltimore, which is the local behavioral health authority in Baltimore City, Maryland. I oversee our AOT program, which has been running for about 3 years now, but I've been in this position only about 4 months, so I'm pretty new.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
Leslie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Carpenter from Iowa City, Iowa. I am the family member advocate that's pushing to get ours started, and we are in the very early organizational stages with the help of the Treatment Advocacy Center. So I'm attending all these meetings to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Heather?
Hi, I'm Heather Vance. I'm with Nevada County in California. It's a very rural county. I'm the program director for our ACT program and AOT program, and the AOT monitor for our program. I've been with our agency since 2008 when we started AOT in our county. We were the first county in California to have AOT. And I've been overseeing the whole AOT program for about 2.5 years, but I've been involved from the beginning.
Excellent. Brianna.
Hi, sorry I'm a little bit late to the meeting. My name is Brianna Snow. I am the AOT monitor for Nami Wood County. I am with Nami County, but I'm in Wood County, Ohio. Our program is very, very new. We're kind of just getting it off the ground, but I'm really excited to hear what everyone else has been doing so that way I can take it back to our program.
Thank you. Kathy?
Yes, I work with Allison. I'm part of Andrew Center, director. We are in the local mental health authority for the East Texas region. Been there. AOT, this is the beginning of our 3rd year.
And Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Stein. I'm a clinical researcher at SIU in Springfield, Illinois. And like Steve said, we go live December 1st.
Great. Did I miss anybody? Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much. You can see we've got just lots of experience to no experience at all. So the whole gamut here, and we've got just, I didn't count how many states were mentioned, but quite a few. So what a great representation. So my colleagues and I just sort of brainstormed some possible topics that you might all want to talk about. So I'm going to ask Amy to stick them up on the screen, and I'm just going to kind of read them off to you and then leave it up to you to decide if these are the things you want to talk about, or maybe we missed the boat entirely and you have some other things on your mind you want to talk about or questions you want to ask each other. Again, this is your meeting and we don't want to run it, but just a couple of things we thought that might be worth spending a few minutes on today at some point in this conversation. The first item we thought about was what is it we can do to assist you, to help make your jobs easier? Are there tools that you need? What exactly, what can we do that that we haven't thought of yet that you think might make your life easier? Another idea we had, and again, I don't know if this is something you would find valuable or not, but we thought we had this opportunity. We've got access not just to you all, but there's a lot of other AOT monitors that weren't able to join us today around the country that we are connected with. And we thought, would it make sense to do some kind of a survey of the monitors? Is that something you would be interested in? What are other monitors' salaries? How many hours are they spending on this work compared to maybe some of their other responsibilities? What specifically are your responsibilities? What are the qualifications for your job? Who are you? What entity are you located in? Are you with your court? Are you with your mental health system? Are you with your, do you work for your NAMI? Who's your administrator? And then anything else? Are there other questions you would be interested in knowing from one another that we could collect from a salary? Another topic we had talked about is, you know, are any of you struggling with the question of, you know, conflict of interest? So as we talked about earlier, you're all kind of out there, you know, making sure that everyone is being held accountable and that there are checks and balances within the system. But if you work for one of those entities, are you running into difficulty kind of holding your you know, your agency, you know, holding them accountable? Is that an issue if your colleagues are, you know, therapists or case managers within your agency and you all work for the same agency and somebody might be, you know, falling down on the job? Are you having difficulty calling attention to that? Is that an issue for you? And if it's not, how have you overcome that? And then let's see, what else did we come up with? Another question we get asked regularly is how do you handle referrals directly from your community? If you have a family that's calling you saying, you know, their loved one is in crisis, they think they would be a good candidate for AOT. They're not currently in the hospital, they're in the community. They'd like to refer them to the program and they're asking you for assistance. What is your process? How do you handle that in your community? And then another topic, lastly, an issue has come up. As you heard today, we've got a few states rather that have several programs in their state. So are you interested in developing a coalition of folks that are working on AOT in your state? Is that something that you would find valuable to? I know here in I'm located in Ohio, and we have a AOT monitors group that meets every 6 months. They've been meeting now, I think, for close to 4 years. In fact, Nick Schranz, who's on the line with us today, is the chair of that group. And they get together, and one of the benefits of meeting together is they can, you know, talk about things they have in common within the state of Ohio. What are some common barriers that we have? What are maybe shortcomings in our law? What, you know, how can we mentor other counties to grow the programs, you know, within the state of Ohio? How can we work together maybe to drum up support for additional resources at the state level, that type of thing. So is that something you're interested in your state in developing? And if so, you know, we'd like to help you with that. So that was sort of our brainstorm list. I think I saw, Amy, you can go ahead and take that list down if you would. So I'm just going to open it up there, and hopefully, you know, somebody will chime in and tell me, you know, of those topics, are any of those something you'd want to spend a few minutes talking about, or is there something else you wanted to talk about today that we could throw out there?
I'm going to jump in with an easy one, which is the last question, and that is, I have found the AOT, the statewide AOT monitors group to be incredibly helpful. I know Joe participates and other people in Ohio have participated, and I think it's very helpful. We talk about county to county transfers as more counties develop AOT programs. Ariel was on the line the other day when we had our meeting also. So I find it to be incredibly helpful. Treatment Advocacy Center is extremely helpful in organizing the meetings. Amy and Betsy participate almost every time we have a meeting. Brian has jumped in. We used to meet face-to-face and Betsy would buy us pizza, but now she just sends us virtual pizzas. So I would encourage states with multiple AOT county programs to consider a statewide group. I think it's extremely helpful.
I'll chime in and agree with you on that because I think what was helpful for me as a new monitor is hearing what some of the other counties are doing. And I think sometimes with like the different states, it can get confusing because of different laws and things like that. But within your state groups, you guys, you know, we share the same common state laws and things like that. So it's a lot, it's helpful to hear and learn from each other in those formats. So I agree.
I had something that I wanted to address to the TAC folks, especially Brian and Betsy and Amy. We had our an AOT hearing today, and for the first time, we had a peer support person on, and I'd never met her before, you know, and met her virtually today. And our client was a 19-year-old, you know, first break kind of thing. And he was talking about, you know, the effects of medications, how he didn't like the side effects, and the things you would expect to hear. He's also smoking CBD oil, of course. And I was trying to encourage him to stay on his meds, you know, and attend therapy and all that kind of stuff. And he was saying that he was thinking when he got off AOT that he would just quit taking them. And the peer support person chimed in and said, well, you know, I was on meds for 3 years, but I'm off now, and it's been successful for me to be off. And I would just encourage you to think of this in 3-month tranches, you know, to think of it, okay, I'm going to do this for 3 months. And if it doesn't work, then I'll quit. And when the meeting ended, the prosecutor and the defense attorney were still on, and the prosecutor was saying, you know, she said, quote, I really didn't like what the peer said. I didn't like her encouraging him to think of meds as something that would be optional for him. You know, he has a serious mental illness, and he's probably going to be on it, if he's going to be successful, for a very long time, if not always. And I don't know quite what to make of that. I mean, I felt like saying to the peer, wait a minute, that's, you know, we're here to encourage him to do it. But I didn't know enough to say anything. And if I don't know enough to say something, I'm just going to shut up and try to do the research. So Brian, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah.
Away.
Well, you know what? I would actually love Amy to take the first crack at this one.
Right.
You know, with our clinical background, I think she will have some insight on this.
So I don't know if you saw, I was holding my head in my hands as in that. But no, that's exactly what we don't want.
Yeah.
And
which is what we don't want.
What we don't want is for the AOT team to say, just hang in here as long as the court order is good, and then go off your meds. We don't care. That's not the message that the team needs to be sending.
So you think I'd directly take this up with the peer and with our local mental health authority who hired her and say, look, that's not the message we want?
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
Good. I think it's incumbent upon Integral Care to do that even before you do, I think. I mean, you know, they need to have the peers.
They said nothing, which surprised me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Can I jump in with the recommendation?
Sure.
Magistrate, I'm from a mental health background, not a legal background. And part of my role, I think the role of AOT in general is to push people towards treatment. And peer support has an important part in treatment, as does case management, therapy, et cetera, but medications are the purview of the prescriber, whether that's a nurse practitioner or a psychiatrist. And so what I always do, anytime a question of medications comes up, is that's up to your prescriber. That's up, in our case in Ohio, the treating psychiatrist is the one that writes the report that the court uses to maintain an AOT order. So my only recommendation is, instead of having the peer support person talk about medications, it's the answer we would usually give is, that's something you have to address with your prescriber or your psychiatrist. And it just pushes that person to the prescriber, and which is where questions about medications should belong.
Thank you, that helps.
Yeah, you know, I can't help but wonder if just trying to maybe give the peer a little bit of the benefit of the doubt is that maybe what they had in mind was sort of like in a 12-step program where they take a just for today approach, where it's almost too daunting to say I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. But
I was wondering that.
And, you know, maybe that is all they had in mind, with the idea that they can build on, a series of successful days such that the person will realize, hey, this is something I would like to sustain. But I don't know. It does seem like they took that too far from what you said.
I like Mr. Schrantz's answer. I agree that this is really something for the prescriber, not for the court.
Yeah.
And not for other than the doctor to be talking about. That really helps me. Good way to turn it. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe another suggestion is that the peer support could also ask the person, can I go with you to your next doctor's appointment? So I can help you make the outlines of your concerns, so you can talk about the side effects, and that way, the doctor can then speak to the efficacy and the benefits of the medication. So that way the peer support isn't actually dispensing medical advice, as it sounds like they may have been or are trying to, but like to take an active role in working with the person and the doctor. Because sometimes I think clients, when they hear you're going to be on meds for the rest of your life and you're 19 years old, that's a pretty scary thought. And so how do we help the client communicate their concerns to the doctor, because the side effects are certainly real and there, and sometimes can be long lasting. And so maybe that might be another approach, is for the peer support to say, let me go with you to the doctor next time. That way I can hear what they're saying, and I can help you advocate for yourself about your concerns about the role of medications in your treatment. Just a thought,
Yeah. But I do also think that, what's been described here really speaks to the fact that programs that use peers, and I am a huge fan of peer involvement in AOT. I've just seen so many programs where peers do amazing things in helping get through to people. But I do think training peers to, have that message be on the same page as the rest of the program is really important. There is a certain faction, I think, of the peer movement that is very focused on self-direction above all else. And that, although we want to maximize self-direction, sometimes that comes into conflict with the very concept of AOT, which is, this is a court order, it's involuntary. And peer working in AOT programs, I think, need to understand that, and to, not kind of be trained not to cross the line into giving a person an idea that this is entirely up to them and not something that's involuntary and court ordered.
Well, I can tell you one consequence of this is the county attorney was talking about getting a doctor's certificate to extend the AOT order.
Good.
Yeah.
I want to clarify, or at least try and understand what Nick said, because I think it is the role of the peer to talk with the participant about medication, but about the positives and why, how medication has changed their life, not saying, I don't take it anymore. That's not what we want to hear, but
that floored me.
It's very important to hear the message that we want to send and hear it from a peer.
We actually had, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We actually had a situation with I call him my AOT mentor, and he just volunteers his time, but he was a graduate of our program, where I just have him sit in the hallway with people when they're waiting to go into court, and just casually have conversation and introduce himself. And he actually made a difference for one of our gals just this last week. She mentioned that she was willing to stay on her medication. She was going to give it at least a year, partially because of what he said to her. And he had mentioned to her that it took him at least 6 months to really get used to the meds and feel the positive effects of the medication. So that was a really positive intervention in her case.
The other thing about peer support is peers come from a wide range of experience with mental illness. I mean, there are peers who have less serious, not less serious, but let's say a diagnosis of depression. They've had a mental illness, so they're considered a peer, but it's not the same, because someone with schizophrenia is much more likely to need the medicine throughout their life. And so you want to try and match the type of diagnoses that you're seeing, but that's hard to do.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's not really a peer if it's someone whose mental illness is so different than yours that it's a fundamentally different experience that they've had. It's not a peer. So.
And I just want to add on one point, as somebody who's managed a lot of people over the course of time, this may be an opportunity for educating and training the peer. The peer may not understand what the goals are, and that might be just approached the right way. It could just be a training opportunity to get the peer on board so that they truly understand what the expectations are.
Yep. For sure.
I just want to follow up on something Heather said with the peer, you know, in the lobby at the courthouse. I've also been to programs where they have a NAMI representative sitting out in the court, in the lobby in the courthouse, talking to family members when they accompany, you know, their loved ones to court, and they share information about their support groups and, you know, family to family. So if that's not something you're doing and that's an opportunity that's available to you, you might want to think about that too. It's a great time to get people when they're really vulnerable and could use that help.
Of course, part of the problem is we're not doing live hearings anymore. This is all on Zoom.
Yeah.
So chances for, you know, those kinds of encounters are pretty slight.
For now.
For now.
I'm curious, are folks hearing from families who want to, you know, get their loved one in the program? Are they contacting you directly? And if so, how do you counsel them?
That's frequent for me. I had a call today from a family who has a family member in the hospital. They're contemplating whether they want to allow this family member to return to their home. And they wanted specifics on Kevin's Law, how do you apply for it, what it can do, what it can't do, and I'm happy to give them that.
Do you walk them through the petition process, or?
Correct. We have kind of an interesting thing, at least in our county, where our court says that you have to get a psychiatrist's co-signature, and this has to be based on a recent evaluation, but they won't exactly tell me what recent means. But I gather it's at least within the past month, preferably within the last couple of weeks. And of course, everybody asks, how do you get a psychiatrist's signature for a person who won't go see their psychiatrist? I don't see that this is written in our mental health code anywhere, so I think it's just something peculiar to our county.
It's a common problem nationally with, well, you know, this idea of step-up AOT, using AOT for someone who's currently in the community and not in a hospital setting where they're easily evaluated. And I think the upshot is that most step-up AOTs happen after a person is brought in for a short-term hold because they are thought to possibly meet inpatient criteria. That is, they meet the criteria for the 72-hour, 48 hold, whatever it is your state allows for the person to be evaluated to see if they do need to go to the hospital. Often people are found not to meet criteria for hospitalization, but to meet AOT criteria as sort of a secondary intervention. And so, you know, that I think you will find most cases of AOT from the community start that way. There's at least enough reason to think they meet inpatient criteria that they do come in for that short-term hold. But to get somebody to submit to the exam when there's not even any reason to think that they might meet inpatient criteria, that's just a hard one for us to solve.
Share. I'm Laura. I'm with the Bernalillo County program in Albuquerque, and we actually got off to a very slow start because our primary emergency mental health hospital that we originally partnered with when getting our SAMHSA grant had a change of heart in regards to the participant study requirement within the grant. And so they pulled out. And so our first year was really kind of us revamping how we were going to make AOT work in our county. And so what we're currently doing is, I would say probably about 60% of our referrals do come from the community. I think that hospitals are slowly getting on board and realizing that it's in the best interest of their clients who are in acute care hospital settings. But for us, what we ended up having to do is the treatment provider that we partner with now in the community that provides the therapeutic services. We ended up having to increase our nurse practitioner's hours to where not only is she doing the ongoing medication management, but she's also doing assessments. And so when we do get those referrals from the community, she's the qualified professional who conducts that assessment and determines whether AOT would be in that individual's best interest.
And Laura, how is that happening with people who are not interested in being assessed? Because I know New Mexico law, which I had a hand in writing, makes it possible for the judge to order the person to come in for an assessment, even if they're not thought to meet inpatient criteria, which other states have kind of balked at going that far for a pure AOT. But I'm sure that you've encountered that problem.
We really do work with the family because we are primarily working with a lot of community referrals. Then part of our process is that we do invite either a treatment guardian or a family member that is a support system for that individual in the community, or maybe someone that they're living with, to come with them to the assessment to kind of help with that encouragement. Yeah. Because they have a little bit more leverage, being that maybe they're living with their sibling or their parent, to say, you know, if you want to keep living here, then we need to get you some help, and this is what we need to do. So we really lean a lot on those community support systems to get that individual to come in. It has been successful for us thus far.
That's amazing. But are there ever situations where the person says, not happening, get lost, I'm not coming in?
Unfortunately, we do. We do have some individuals that we attempt to schedule and then reschedule, and they continue to be a no-show. And then unfortunately, we end up kind of catching them in the back end, where they do end up being admitted into an acute hospital situation. And then because we're already following them and they're in the referral process, then we're able to reach out to that attending physician to say, hey, you know, this is kind of where we were with this individual, if you'd be interested in serving as the petitioner. And then we use that hospital's assessment.
That's interesting. That's a great point. I think that really speaks to why it's still valuable to get started, even for someone that you don't think is going to come in, just to have the process started.
Right.
Described is great.
This is
please go ahead.
Hi, Sonia Burns from Austin, Texas. On the peer support, because like I don't think we've done a good amount of training around the AOT before we got started, and I'm really excited to have it here. So I want to make sure we do the best job possible.
And just for everyone's reference, Sonia is in the same community as Judge Prashner, Travis County, Austin, Texas.
Yeah. So. Hi, Judge Prashner. So, and I'm just trying, is there some kind of, because we also, I mean, we don't have enough peers yet in Travis County. It's a discussion that's ongoing because people will go through training, then not get the certification. But is there training, like, I don't know, like through Judge Leifman's program, or is there something around the AOT for peer support that we could bring in? Because I'm just thinking, I mean, in Texas, our forensic wait list is just off the charts and it's not going anywhere. So this AOT is going to be super important. And I think peer support is going to be critical. And there go my dogs.
Yeah. So
that's a great idea.
It is. It is. And there's nothing like that exists yet. A specific AOT training program for peers that are going to be working with AOT clients. We don't have such a thing. We have our kind of general AOT training, our learning modules, a lot of which I think peers would get a lot out of, and I absolutely would recommend that as part of their onboarding into a program that they view those. But I do think it's a great idea to develop some kind of a specific curriculum.
Yeah, and we're hoping to bring a peer on staff here in the near future that could help with that. So. Curious in terms of some of the referral sources in your communities. I mean, I just wonder, like, are you reaching out to some maybe non-traditional partners to educate them about the availability of AOT, and if they see somebody who's struggling in the community, that there's some kind of means of communicating that to the program. I know some communities have educated their their transportation authorities or their public libraries. I'm just curious if any of you are doing anything like that or have thought about that, or if you get referrals from them. And again, with COVID, is probably less less of an issue, but.
If I can say something about, so we're going into our 13th year of providing AOT services in my community. It's a small rural county, which is different than bigger communities. But over the years, we've done a lot of outreach and education with community partners. I'm trying to think of the most referrals we get from outside entities other than family members would be law enforcement, judges, which actually just got approved in the state of California that judges can actually refer. But most of the referrals are coming from law enforcement and judges other than the family members. I've also had one from a probation officer. So we've found that the education piece for the community partners needs to be ongoing, because the overturn, certainly in law enforcement, the overturn is constant, and constantly needing to put that message out there regularly so that it's at the top of people's heads and that people are aware that it's still around and what it is.
Is anybody training their CIT officer about, including anything about, I think, Joe, you are, aren't you, up in Hancock County?
Yep. Actually, next week we're having our annual CIT training for law enforcement, and it'll be the second year in a row now I've done a bit on AOT, and so that's incorporated into the annual CIT program here in Hancock County. Is little snippet about AOT. Yep. Yeah.
The one year that we got to be involved in the CIT training, we did talk a lot about AOT, and I got to go and provide all the information, bring brochures and all of that stuff. The CIT training's been tossed around between different entities in our community, so it's hard to nail that down and make sure it gets in there, but that's an excellent place to provide the education about AOT.
In Lorain County, Ohio, we do as well. We have Judge Walther come out, and he actually talks about our AOT program. And then I also can talk about it as well. So I think we've talked about incorporating that just to be helpful and having our officers know what our program is, and also who our participants are in case, they encounter our participants. And they know that they have us as a source to kind of lean back on. So
Ariel, do you share then the names of folks who are in AOT with law enforcement?
So we haven't started that, but I think it even came up on one of our conversations in our AOT monitors call about possibly doing that. I don't know what that would we do it for like our mental health clients. They send us like our contact sheets and things, but we haven't started it for AOT. Not like an official system. If it comes up, we will, but I would like to. I'm not sure what that would need to look like. But I think that could be helpful to, some of our departments that are encountering our AOT clients. And honestly, they generally know who they are. We know, who we see at the jail booking alerts, things like that. So we have some idea of if our people are encountering the police, but not all. We have a lot of smaller departments that we wouldn't know unless they let us know. So.
Kind of staying on that same topic, I had a question about maybe how other programs are approaching that. I know that was part of a discussion in one of our recent webinars where we did HIPAA and AOT, and I think that was part of the discussion about sharing names of current AOT participants with CIT teams and kind of the confidentiality, legalities surrounding that. And it's something that we're currently exploring here to determine maybe if that's just something up front that we could write into the AOT order to be able to just share that information. Once someone's ordered in, it's part of the order to then share their name. So we're just kind of working with our legal team there to see if there's any objections to that, but I don't know how other counties might be successful in that way.
Yeah, so Laura, my answer would be that for law enforcement specifically, sorry, can't mute my dog while I'm talking, but for law enforcement specifically, it is very straightforward, easy answer to have it in the court order that the disclosure be made to them. There is a in the HIPAA privacy exception, privacy rule list of exceptions that are in the federal regs. There's a specific exception for disclosures to law enforcement made pursuant to a court order. And so it's, I would just make that a routine practice with each court order to say that, especially if you can name the specific officers, the chief commanding officer of the CIT unit, this person shall be informed that this individual is under AOT. There should be no legal issues once that's in the court order. And if anyone in your counsel's office has any concerns about that, encourage them to talk to me. I'll show them the language.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Communities that have well-functioning crisis diversion, crisis triage centers, do we know how those may be referring to AOT, or are they not? Or we don't have a crisis diversion center yet, but that is a big push here right now. And so I just see that would be maybe an appropriate relationship to cultivate. Sorry, Judge Prashner, this is future.
We have a crisis stabilization unit that's attached to our local hospital here, and it's another area where we do need to make sure we're constantly educating because there's a lot of turnover there, but we do get referrals from there. It's a great connection for trying to capture people, at some point in the whole process. It's a great place to be able to capture them in a moment.
Okay.
So I was speaking with a group of people out of San Antonio, Bexar County, where they have, very developed AOT program. And in that conversation, one of the graduates was actually saying, because they have, they've done very well now post going through it. And there was a mention of the psychiatric advance directives. And then in that same conversation was an officer who works very closely with this population who was saying that he was specifically thinking of one person who's now gone back into crisis, who's now back in hospitalization and will most likely return to AOT. But for this person, he was actually saying if he could just have in his psychiatric advance directive, I'm going through this, I respond well to my medication, I need help when I stop, he could skip a lot of what he goes through if he could just actually get into AOT right away. Are communities addressing that, as far as predicting the need for someone who's cycled enough but then gets the insight to know that that's kind of the assistance they need when they're—
I'm not sure exactly what would be in the advanced directive under this idea. Would it actually say enroll me in an AOT program?
Yeah, almost. Sometimes I get off my medication. I do really well on my medication. When I'm off, my life falls apart. I need to be forced into medication. Well, I hate to use the word force, but
yeah,
robustly supported to take my medication.
Right. So, you don't have to have somebody currently unable to understand their need for meds at the time you put them in AOT, right? So AOT is most typically used when someone is actually stable coming out of the hospital. So, the idea that you would put somebody in the AOT program while they're in the midst of this crisis and expect that black robe effect to really matter in the midst of, the authority to act under the advanced directive isn't really triggered until a person is in a full-blown active crisis and they lack capacity to make their treatment decisions. That's not the moment to start somebody in an AOT program, right? That's usually the moment where you want somebody to get some hospital care and get stable. So I think it would just kind of work out weirdly to say, you know, here's a person in crisis. Their pad says, let's put them into an AOT program. Quick, hurry, get them under AOT and expect the AOT to work. It's just kind of putting the cart before the horse. I think you got to get him hospitalized, get him stabilized. And hopefully at that moment when you start AOT, they are recognizing that this is a good thing for them. Does that answer it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have to say, I've never heard of that before, but I can see where it might work, especially in places where to access a certain level of care, you need to have that order. So if the only way to get on an ACT team is through the AOT order, then I could see where that would make sense.
Yeah, but of course that should never be the case, that you can only get ACT if you meet AOT criteria.
I totally agree with that.
Right.
but that's not the case necessarily everywhere.
Yeah, with some of our SAMHSA funded programs, they're using their SAMHSA grant to pay for ACT, and they're only for people under AOT. That's true. But, you know, that's kind of a shame.
It reminds me when we were working on our AOT legislation in Ohio that we had a young woman who testified in front of the legislature about when she's off her meds. At one point she was off her meds and she pushed her mother down the stairs, and she went to the hospital, got stabilized, and when she was feeling better, she was horrified when she learned what she had done. And so she told the legislature, if I'm ever ill again, please, I want to, go to the hospital. I want to be put on AOT and be made to take my medication. So that individual could be a great advocate and to be able to recognize something like that and to be able to articulate it is a pretty powerful message.
Yep. So I'd actually like to bring up one of the points that was on our list of proposed topics that of interest to me. I'm curious how people feel about it, and that's the topic of whether people sometimes feel a conflict of interest, or whether it can be awkward to have to tell the judge that an agency that you work for is not upholding its end of the bargain to a person who's under AOT. And I guess the question, the universe of people who can really even answer that is maybe limited to those whose role as monitor really is to stand as an impartial monitor of both sides, kind of the way Nick does, where he's kind of out there in the community reporting back to the judge on whether each side of this mutual commitment is upholding its end of the bargain to the other. And I think, one of the really kind of neat things about the way it's structured in Butler County, where Nick works, is that he works for an agency that is a community-based provider agency, but one that is not actually involved in AOT. So that kind of removes him from any potential conflict of interest, where he's having to tell the judge that, the people who are his colleagues who work for the same organization as him are not providing the treatment that's been promised to the person. But yeah.
Well, we actually, my agency does provide treatment, and I do have moments where I don't feel that the treatment that my respondents are getting is appropriate. So I am quick to.
Oh, I guess I had that wrong. So so your agency provides services to AOT clients?
Yes, we have 3 large mental health agencies in the county, and all 3 participate, and then a smattering of others. But yeah, I view one of my main jobs is to review the monthly reports I get from case managers at all the agencies. But if I see something lacking, I am certainly going to talk to the case manager, the supervisors, whoever need be, to try to fix that problem.
Yeah. And does that get awkward for you when it's people within your own organization?
No, partly because I've done this long enough.
Yeah.
Partly because I always believe that the AOT relationship is mutually beneficial between the respondent, the treatment provider, the court, etc. the agency benefits from me going to the respondents and promoting treatment. At the same time, I then feel comfortable going back to an agency and expecting them to fix a treatment problem. So I do think it's mutually beneficial. And as a result, it usually works out pretty well when I can identify a problem, and it's usually remedied fairly quickly.
Okay. Are there other people in the conversation who fulfill the role of monitor, who at least kind of share that sense of what their job is, that, you know, you are there to let the court know whether each side of that commitment is upholding its end of the bargain to the other? Because I know that's not how everyone defines what an AOT monitor is, but we kind of see that as a really nice thing to have in place.
That's actually what my role is defined as while we're building our program. I'm additionally the CIT monitor for Namiwood County. So I help with the CIT program. And I actually presented at the CIT training that we had last week about AOT. But that is predominantly my role as the AOT monitor. Will be engaging with the treatment agency that the participant is working with, as well as the court, to make sure that they're adhering to that treatment and to make sure that I'm following up with those areas.
Right. And Brianna, do you do that as an employee of the county or the ADM board, or?
I'm actually hired through NAMI, but I also work with like the ADAMIS board. I kind of like float, but I'm housed at NAMI in Wood County.
Yeah. Right. So that gives you some independence, right? I mean, you're not,
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. I know there are a few counties in Ohio that are looking to their NAMIs as being the place to house their AOT monitor to avoid that conflict. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Right. How about folks outside of Ohio? Is that what we were describing a fair assessment of what you would do as monitors?
Brian, by that definition, I guess I in Oakland County, Michigan, would be kind of half a monitor. I'm often a point person for people in the community, both families and treatment providers, as to, Mac, how does Kevin's Law work? How do we get somebody on it? Then what happens? There are supposed to be 30-day reports done. My understanding has always been that they go to our court. I've never seen one.
Right.
And I don't know how often they're getting done.
Yeah. And that's, you know, we of course are working with you guys in Oakland County, and I think that's one of the things we're hoping to make more of a reality, because those 30-day reports can be extremely powerful and effective. And it's something that makes.
Thank you very much for that. We've made the comment that we have a process more than we have a program, and hopefully now we can have more of a program.
Yeah, terrific. But you know, there may come moments for you where you have to tell the judge, hey, this person really isn't getting the services we promised them. And you might get some people mad at you at those moments, but you know, it comes with the territory.
That's been known to happen.
Yeah.
Is there anything else folks want to discuss before we wrap up? This has been a great discussion. Just, you know, keep in mind, this is your meeting. If there are topics you want to see, you know, put on the agenda, feel free to let us know in advance, or, you know, or be prepared to bring them up when we meet. I am curious, you know, if folks are interested in this notion of doing an AOT coalition in your state. I'm thinking Texas would probably be the most logical next place, because you've got so much going on there, so many programs. So if there are folks from Texas that would like to work with me on that, I'd love to hear from you. I think we've got a great model in Ohio. It'd be relatively easy to do, especially with Zoom. So I'll follow up with you on that. Anything else before we say goodbye? Brian, Amy?
No. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your time. I hope this was valuable.
Good meeting.
Okay.
Thanks all.